Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sivadas Madhavan, Associate Professor of English. I'm going to talk about the 3 stages of English language. That is, the way the English was during these 3 periods. That is, Old English, Middle English, and Modern English. Old English is known as Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon refers to the language used by Anglo-Saxons and Jews, the 3 tribes that came from Germany to settle in Britain. And only when they came, the language of the British people was anglicized. The language was anglicized, that means the language of Anglo-Saxons and Jews influenced, and the language of British people got changed. And that had the influence of the inflections. The inflections of the language of Anglo-Saxons and Jews came to the language of British people. Inflection means the termination of the word that determines the grammatical category, like person, case, tense, number, etc. So these type of grammatical category was determined by the inflection, the ending of the word. But that was the feature of the Old English. In the Old English, these grammatical categories were determined by the ending of the word. That's why it is called, it's a language of full inflections. So Old English was a language of full inflections. That means so many words had the grammatical forms determined by the ending of the word, full inflections. And it was from 450 up to 1066. So that is the time of from 5th century to 11th century. That was the time of Old English. And in 1066, when the Normans conquered England, William of Normandy became the ruler, and French was imposed on the English people, the British people. British people had to follow French as their official language. Official language was French. And the official language was French, and it was the dignified language at that time, and people began to imitate French language. So influence of French language began to change the nature of English language. So it began to lose the termination, the grammatical terminations. The inflections began to lose. And it became leveled inflection. That means so many of them were left, but so many of them were kept. So it was known as the language of leveled inflections. After that, it continued up to 1500. So from 11th century up to the beginning of 16th century was known as the Middle English. So 1066 to 1500 is the time of Middle English. And Middle English is known as the period of leveled inflections, because many inflections were lost. But when it came to the Modern English, from 1500 till now, that means 1500 onwards, it is known as Modern English time, Modern English period. So Modern English period is known as a period of lost inflections. So inflections were lost. Most of the inflections were lost. 1 or 2 may still stay in English. That means even now we can see the terminations like for objective case of some pronouns, and for the possessive case of the words we can see. For example, to show the possession we use apostrophe S. Example, Tom's book. Tom's book, Tom apostrophe S. So this apostrophe S is the termination that shows the possession. And the same way, the objective case of certain pronouns like him, the objective, I met him, I saw him, I told him. Him is the objective case. When the word he becomes objective, it becomes him. When it is subjective case, it becomes he. So subjective case and objective case we can see. For example, I and me. I is the subject, the nominative case, and me is the objective case. But in the case of, say, for example, all the pronouns are not in the same way in the modern English. In the case of you, possessive case, we have your, but objective case, it is the same as it is in the nominative case, you. I met you, I saw you, I told you, etc. So in the modern English, it is almost lost. So modern English is known as a period of lost inflections. And modern English is divided into two sections. That means from 1500 till the present day, we can divide it into two. That is from 1500 to 1800 is the early stage of modern English. And from 1800 till now is the late modern English period. So early stage is determined by the Renaissance, printing, etc. Printing standardized the language. Spelling system, usage, etc. became standard language. The standardization of English was mainly because of printing, and so many other grammatical factors were also used to standardize the language. That was in the early stage of modern English. And the late stage of modern English is from 1800 onwards. 1800 onwards means from the Industrial Revolution onwards. Not only Industrial Revolution, scientific advancement, etc. began to change and colonization. Colonization also began to change the nature of the language. So these are the important characteristic features of the modern English. And the early modern English is not like the late modern English. So we are using late modern English, that is the latest form of English. That was not the way Chaucer wrote. Chaucer is known as the father of modern English, and he is known as the father of English poetry, but what he has written is entirely different from the modern language that we use. So English is continuously getting changed. The change is a constant process in the case of English. Not only English, all the languages are changing, but these are the changes that we see in English. So Old English or Anglo-Saxon from 5th century to 11th century is the language of full inflection, and Middle English from 1066, that is from 11th century up to 1500 is the Middle English, that is the language of leveled inflections. And from 1500 onwards, the modern English is the period of lost inflections. So these are the three important changes that took place in the development of English, from Old English to Middle English, from Middle English to modern English. And inflection is the important factor, because this inflection got changed, and now English has become a language of word order, that is syntax. Syntax became more important in the present day modern English, that we will see later some of the time. Until then, thank you.